So, hi, and after the previous call or talk, we will be talking about the same things more or less. So let's hear our approach on it as well. So welcome to our talk about breaking developer portal silos and how we believe that a holistic approach to UX and technical writing can drive AI. We will present a mindset that we think is able to conquer the chaos or challenges you might be experiencing. And first, a quick introduction. So we are Kathleen and Ádám. I'm from the Pronovix team, and Ádám is member of the technical writer team. We would love to take you with us on a journey where we will dive into what our team stand for and what challenges we experience when AI models come into the picture. So here we go. Please take it away, Ádám.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let's go back in time. Do you remember when developer portals were little more than just browsable API catalogs? Back when the audience was narrow, mostly developers, documentation was highly technical, minimal, and often written by engineers as a side task. But as companies sought to grow their markets and serve broader audiences, including product managers, partners, and non-technical users, the purpose of developer portals had to evolve. Content needed to be broadened and user experience upgraded. Standards helped unify structure. New content types, guides, tutorials, use cases became essential players. And dev portals transformed into self-service ecosystems, onboarding users, supporting product adoption, and driving business outcomes. But even though developer portals evolved, it is interesting to see that many of the teams behind the scenes are still working in isolation or not cooperating as smoothly as would be preferred. In our experience, this becomes even more challenging when AI comes into the picture. For example, UX designers craft intuitive flows, technical writers create clear use for documentation, but when collaboration is missing, so is cohesion. Journeys feel fragmented, interfaces look polished but confused, content exists but can't be found, so can't be used. Because design without content is hollow, content without structure is invisible, and both fall short unless usability and information architecture are treated as shared responsibilities. And then AI comes into the picture as a new player in the game. We worked with an enterprise company that had thousands of documents across their developer portal. Their goal was clear: help users find the right information easier and faster. To support this, they invested heavily in a powerful search interface, complete with categories, filters, and drill-down capabilities that, in theory, could guide users from high-level concepts all the way down to individual API endpoints and so on. Their CMS was also well-equipped. It supported structured content, metadata fields, and content relationships right out of the box. But in practice, the search didn't deliver. Results were often irrelevant or completely missing. So the company looked to an AI for solution. They planned to replace their search with a retrieval augmented generation model, hoping that AI would produce better answers. It didn't. The tested AI tools couldn't generate anything useful either, and when we investigated, the core problem was clear. The foundation wasn't there. The content team hadn't provided meaningful metadata. They didn't maintain consistent information architecture. Many URLs were broken, breaking the relationships between content pieces. Most critically, the actual information users needed was buried in PDF stored in external system. Portal pages simply link to those pages without summaries, without context, and without anything machine readable. And so even the robot is sitting at a desk, looking totally baffled, surrounded by messy notes and symbols. What does this story tell us? No single team can deliver a great developer experience alone. AI has the appearance of bringing the solution, but does it bring the solution? How to start improvements then?
So yeah, what if we would set up an AI persona to figure out needs and behavior to be able to design for AI properly? So before that, as a side note, I would like to mention that I will use the word AI here in the general sense, because we believe it doesn't matter what kind of model or architecture you will use, as the context for our outlined mindset will stay the same. So personas smell of UX methodology, and why go back to those or to that? Well, I believe that we can learn from the basic UX process. For example, when we want to design or redesign a site's information architecture that reflects a company's unique context. In this process, we look at input from stakeholders and real users to inform us about business goals, business strategy on the one hand, and about user requirements on the other hand. Bundling the input and findings result then in a list of required content, features, and functionalities that will then be organized on the site in the best way possible, spiced up with defining how people will interact with the site, resulting in the most concrete and directly visible parts of the story, the individual pages and user interface. So in short, the specific user needs and requirements influence what content is required, affect the way a site is organized, and how interaction ideally happens.
So what happens when AI is involved?
Well, we have described our human consuming users in the past. You can find lots of blog posts on the Pronovix blog and know how they consume in the traditional way. But these users also started consuming with the help of AI. So for example, during the user journey steps of discovering what is being offered on a developer portal, or when having to make a decision about what is available, or when asking for support or so. So what I really want to point out here is that AI is luring in as a user that we haven't met before. AI consumes content to become a provider for another user.
And what is required in the background for AI to deliver the best out of and offer the most valuable input to the end user?
So to be able to do that and to make the most of our user profile for the AI persona, we pile together a persona card that you can see here, or rather an archetype card in this case, if you're a UX designer. I know the words might be a little bit small to read, but we'll share this later as well. AI becomes more popular, so when we treat AI as a persona, we are able to easily list its characteristics, its needs, its typical behavior, and the way it will interact with the portal, of course. So this persona card can help us understand if the decisions we make around organizing the site and setting up content will benefit or hinder users, and in this case, the user is AI. So our in-house research showed us that human users find reliability and transparency really important when working with AI.
And how does that translate in what is important to keep in mind when designing for AI?
Well, to provide relevant input and answers, AI should be able to consume through predictable, that means recognizable and clear structure, accurate information. AI should be able to recognize and find relationships and dependencies, semantic markers, and last but not least, AI needs accessible layout and content. So well-set keyboard navigation, alt text, captions, etc., to make sense of all the presented information. In short, the AI output is only as good as the structure and content it can rely on. AI doesn't work without clear, structured, and meaningful content. We cannot just add AI as something new to the portal. We really need to make sure that what we have is prepared for AI. To sum it up, think of AI as this type of user that doesn't see interfaces, that entirely relies on structured, accessible, and meaningful content. Without clarity, connection, and good labeling, AI won't be able to help us either. So that brings us to our next chapter on how contributing UX and Techwriter teams can help AI to strive. Because as AI becomes part of the whole user experience design by being a consumer itself, the UX and technical writer teams need to align more than ever to build developer portals that are not only helpful to human users, but also interpretable by machines, laying the foundation for AI-driven services. So where could UX and Techwriter teams collaborate? Well, for example, Ádám, you and your colleagues you could join, let's say, early UX discussions in which we define business goals, user needs and requirements for a developer portal iteration, so that you can already start thinking about the content that is connected to all of that. Or we can create the given developer portal sitemaps together to make sure that user flows and content structure will go hand in hand. Do you have any examples that stand out for you as a technical writer?
Well, for example, an early content audit can help to identify what already exists and what is missing before the project enters into the design phase. Aligning upfront about what is expected of our work and communicating about our findings as soon as possible is really crucial. Or when we have our content-first approach, where content helps to shape the wireframes UX designers put together.
Yeah, exactly. I'd also like to mention feedback loops to test both for usability and readability plus comprehension.
Or final QA and accessibility reviews to ensure the portal works for people and systems.
Right. And these are only some of the examples where it is important to bundle our forces to ensure a better outcome of our work for future users. So even if your teams don't sit in the same meetings, they must have the same roadmap. If you're a UX designer, involve your writers early. If you're a writer, ask to join, for example, information architecture discussions. If your organization wants to build for AI, your content strategy needs to support that goal. And at all time, take accessibility guidelines into account. Don't forget that. So you don't need perfect tools, just better collaboration. None of that is possible if your teams remain stuck in silos, because in fact, we're just two sides of the same coin. So Ádám, that was quite a bunch of theory we had so far, with some real life examples, of course, of how we could work together. But do you have some more practical tips and tricks for us?
Yeah, I have 5 practical actions that you can take to boost your content usability. We've here heard most of them, but practice makes perfect. So with these 5 practical actions, you can help improving usability, discoverability, and the all-in-all value for both your developers and the AI tools trying to use your content. This part of the presentation is based on one of our recent blog posts, so you can find a link in the resources section if you're interested in more details. So let's jump right in. Improving the AI readiness of your dev portal does not mean rebuilding everything from scratch. So first, prioritize high-impact content. Action 1, focus your efforts where it counts most. If you need an idea where to start, focus on the minimum viable documentation, which are your core API reference docs, your onboarding guides, and if you have, the API business overview pages. All of this must be in a machine-readable format, so get that foundation solid first. Conduct a targeted content audit. And this isn't just about dusting things off. Of course, it's a structured process. So first, create an inventory, know what you have, then collect data. You can use, if you have, analytics, but read support tickets, gather feedback, understand what's used, what's confusing, what's missing, find the pain points, then analyze what you gathered. Check accuracy, relevance, usage, find gaps, and look at the editorial process itself. And finally, apply changes based on what you learned to fix things. Strengthen content hierarchy and metadata. This is fundamental for both humans finding stuff and AI processing it. Here are some examples of messy URLs with auto-generated node IDs versus clean, predictable URL aliases. The clean ones help humans and machines understand where the given topic fits by showing parent-child relationships clearly. Attaching meaningful labels and metadata to APIs, tagging content pieces with meaningful markers not only helps AI, but also allows filtering.
Yeah, so this is similar to what we discussed earlier, right? How a healthy content hierarchy, this is difficult work, and consistent metadata also improve human usability, right?
Yes, these principles equally benefit machines. So you can make your content discoverable internally and for AI with good internal linking, which isn't just for guiding human users. It actively helps AI models understand relationships and identify topic clusters, make the AI better at finding and synthesizing info. And finally, convert legacy content to structured formats.
Does this tackle a common problem of all stuff that is hanging around?
we can't emphasize enough, AI needs structure. Legacy documentation often lives in PDF, Word files, or unstructured or misused HTML. This is what we see, of course, a landing page with useful information, call to actions, etc. Very useful. But here is what AI sees, raw HTML. And that raw HTML full of, well, in the AI context right now, with the irrelevant metadata, is expensive for AI to process and hard to interpret. For example, just to give you an idea, converting all the HTML pages to Markdown can make a huge difference. Markdown is 5 to 10 times more token efficient than HTML, meaning it's significantly faster and cheaper for AI to work with. That's why, again, it's worth adding a simple LNS.txt Markdown file to your dev portal, a single accessible place for key background information and guidance. It's easy for humans to read and easy for AI to understand.
Yeah, but everyone seems to have these old PDFs. What to do with those?
Do you remember our example about the enterprise company that thought AI would solve their findability needs? AI-based search engines cannot access external PDF content, well, by default. So you can use any kind of several tools like Marker, Humata, or Chat PDF to extract information from PDF files. You can also drop a PDF in most of the ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini and get the same job done. But so if your PDFs are living in an external platform, don't just link to them. Periodically import or sync key content from them into your portal. Extract and index the content in a structured way. If you can do more, show users and provide AI with summaries directly in the portal, but still let users open the full PDF if needed, but eventually try to get rid of them. So let me wrap up with a glimpse into what might be coming. We also touched that, and why UX and tech writers must stand together at the front lines of this shift. Agent-to-agent protocol and the model context protocol are complementary standards for building robust agentic applications. Protocols for AI interoperability. MCP connects agents to tools, APIs, and resources with structured inputs and outputs. Think of it as a way agents access their capabilities. A2A protocol facilitates dynamic, multimodal communication between different agents as peers. It's how agents collaborate, delegate, and manage shared tasks. So, MCP and A2A communication goes even further and promises the world of super assistants. Once they arrive, they will radically change how developers interact with APIs and technical products. These agents won't just suggest documentation. They'll be the interface. No traditional UI, no traditional user journey, just bots calling bots.
So instead of browsing a developer portal, users will talk to an assistant, asking, for example, give me a sample app of this loan API, or explain the OAuth flow for my client idea, create a Postman test for this use case.
Yeah, this is what's happening. And the assistant will do it instantly, correctly, in your language, your framework, and your platform. Or at least this is the promise. But there is a catch. No matter how smart these assistants get, and they will get smarter, they will still be completely dependent on the quality of the content and that data they are built on. If we don't fix what's broken, clarify what's vague, structure what's chaotic, then even the most powerful assistant will stumble. They'll guess, they'll hallucinate, and they'll frustrate. Because, as we already said, bad foundation equals clumsy AI. This is the paradox. We're building the future, but it might run on today's forgotten pages. The missing tutorials, the stale credentials guide, deprecated endpoints no one updated.
So we've come to the end. So before we talk about the future, we need to prepare the present first. We need to fix what's broken, structure what's unstructured, update what's been forgotten, document what only lives in someone's head. When we work together, the results are exponential. When we clarify flow, write a better guide, fix a navigation path, introduce a glossary, then we're helping real users right now. The word together is definitely in focus here because enhancing content and user experience in general, which is beneficial for AI as well, is not only on the TechWriter and UX tables.
Well, In fact, we are advocating for redesigning the overall company mindset, breaking silos further.
Imagine what we could achieve if all the teams in your company collaborate more closely. For example, did you ever try to explain one of your portal's APIs to a marketeer colleague?
Or a sales case to an API architect.
And if it didn't work out, there might be a gap somewhere that you need to fill. Is communication between different departments or business units aligned as best as possible? Are there any user groups that we're missing out on internally, externally, that are in a blind spot?
How to reform and redesign what you already have, not reinventing the wheel.
In other words, are all the teams or departments, business units across your company working towards the same goal that brings your company success?
So here is the invitation. Let's collaborate now. Let's fix what we can. Let's keep learning and evolving, and let's do the craft we love together.
So we believe that a collaborative mindset drives progress. Technology simply supports that journey. Row in the same boat, swim in the same lane. Second comes the tooling, technology, frameworks, etc. that you will use to set up your AI-powered system. If you feel you are stuck in mapping out a solution, if you need an outsider's eye or experience to review your materials, the Pronovix UX and Techwriter teams can help you out. As a starter, if you would like to assess your developer portal's health and AI readiness, feel free to submit your input through our self-assessment form that you can reach from the pronovix.com site. Well, kudos to all the thinkers out there. This is our long list of resources. One more, and this is the final one. That was it. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for listening, and we're really much looking forward to the other talks. Thanks.